We don't know what melanin is. We don't know how to keep melanin healthy and to keep ourselves healthy. So we're gonna go into that, all right? So first things first is that I want you guys to understand that the problem is that we are listening to peoples who are different than us. When I say different than you, what I mean is this, is that we are carbon-rich, melanin-dominated beings. And as carbon-rich, melanin-dominated beings, we have a specific relationship between us and our environment, right? Our relationship between us and our environment will produce certain chemicals within our biological disposition and within our cells that will not happen in other groups of peoples. We have a whole different makeup, all right? And our cells in our bodies produces different chemicals than other races and ethnic types, all right? A lion and a tiger are both cats. They belong to the cat family, but they are different. A lion's body does not work the same way as a tiger's body. They both eat different foods because they both exist in different environments. The environments provide for the lion what the lion needs to be healthy. There's certain qualities of sunlight the lion needs is provided in his environment. There's certain amounts of proteins that lion need is provided with the environment. Vice versa for the tiger. Within the tiger's environment, the lion might not find what the lion needs. So then the lion in the tiger's environment will suffer. The environment of the tiger is hostile to the environment of the lion. And vice versa. They are both two different creatures. And their biochemical buildup is different because they are different creatures. Dr. Sebi said you wouldn't give a gorilla the food of a lion. They're both different creatures. We are different from Eurasians. We are different from Europeans and we are different from Asians. We have a carbon-based melanin polymer within every single cell in our body. In the mitochondria of every single cell in our body is melanin. Melanin is our biochemical stamp. And our bodies with this stamp act different from other bodies that do not have that stamp. Now, the other bodies that I'm talking about are the bodies of Asians and Europeans, your colonizers. The bodies of the colonizers work separate and different to the bodies of a melanated god, to a aboriginal of the land, to a indigenous persons of the land, to a diaspora, to an extension of the diaspora, to the motherland. We are different. You could tell we're different by simply observing us and looking at us. We are white, they are white, and we are black. What that means is that genetically, biochemically, we are different and we go through different cellular processes. And the similar processes that we do have are still very different. We both go through cellular respiration, but we do it differently because we are different, with different hormones, with different concentrations of melanin, a more concentrated form of melanin. we are not Europeans. Therefore, we should not cater our bodies to the standards of Europeans. We had to put a black standard on. So these colonizers that's been subjugating you for thousands of years, Europeans and Asians, that finally conquered the lands of the world and set up their institutions that is based on their perception of the world and themselves. They believe that they are supreme to everything on the planet. Thus their society, the capitalistic democratic society, embraces that thought and reflects it. In this white supremacist society lies multi-billion white supremacist institutions. These institutions that I'm referring to are the pharmaceutical companies, the medical sciences, and universities. Since they're white supremacist, then they would tell you, then they will be of the view that everybody, that every races of people, their bodies all act and behave in the same way as their bodies. Thus, you are basing your health, your vision of your health, off of their vision of their health. Because you don't know how biochemistry works in a black body. You've never done the science, you've never done the research. The only thing you know is that you need your proteins. The only thing you know is that you need your amino acids and you need your vitamins. And that when you get sick, you need to pop a prescription pill. You have no idea how the black body works. And you are listening to the colonizers tell you how to keep yourself healthy. So, the problem is that we're listening to Europeans and we're listening to Asians who are different from us on the ethnogenetical level. Our genes have variations as opposed to theirs. We are different and historically do not care about us. So historically, they have slaughtered hundreds of millions of us. But then, in recent times, they created these institutions that you trust. Even though you lead a heart disease, even though you lead a sickle cell, even though they say sickle cell is genetic, you trust them. And then anybody that tries to bring true healing to you, you fight away because they're so deeply embedded in your mind to the point where you have taken on their attributes and you've become a supremacist in your own. We're going to get into that as well. But first we're going to touch down on the biology. First we're going to touch on the biology. First we're going to touch on the chemistry. First we're going to touch on healing. But you need to know the problem in order to get to the solution. If you don't know the problem, then you're walking blind. And we're done with walking blind. Because now we know who we are. And melanin is the basis of our reality. Melanin is culture. Melanin is immunity. Melanin is biochemistry in the black body. So, their advice do not fuel vitality. What do I mean by that? Their advice turning you towards prescription medicine, turning you towards proteins. You go to the hospital, and in the hospital, they feed you pork, cow, eggs, white rice. In the hospital, where they're supposed to heal you, they're feeding you poisons. In the hospital. Their advice did not fuel vitality. Everyone you go to, they'll tell you, and their mama will tell you, you need protein to be healthy. You need protein to be healthy. What about protein? You're a vegan? What about protein? You're ITAL. What about protein? You're alkaline. What about protein? You ask them, what is protein? They can't tell you. They don't even know what a protein is. A protein is an amine. A protein is nitrogen. You are carbon. You are not nitrogen. As a matter of fact, we'll show you what nitrogen does to a carbon-based body. They don't care about you. There's a reason why we're dying at an alarming rate. It is not coincidence. It is an effect. And the effect is caused by something. The effect is caused by. So, their advice do not fuel vitality. Protein, 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 protein. That's all they focus on. Aminos, amines, proteins. Everybody says this. Both black and white. Protein, protein. What is protein? You tell me, what's protein? Why is it that you're saying I need to go and I need to eat blood, flesh, and starch? Because blood, flesh, and starch has the highest amount of proteins. Albumin, lipids. Why you keep directing me towards proteins? What is it? And who is it good for? Is it good for me or for you? Is it good for a black body? Because a black body and a white body is different. A black body and an Asian body is different. They both react to chemicals differently. They're both made up of different chemicals. So who is it good for? Is it healthy for me? Is it healthy for you? Because we're not all the same. We are different on a genetic level. There are different biodiversities. So who is it good for and who is it a poison to? Protein. Protein does not fuel vitality. Protein is the death of us. Protein is what is polluting our blood plasma. Protein is what leads to exopolysaccharides attaching onto your lymph and your red blood cells, and fermentation inside of your stomach and your tissues and your digestive system. Proteins do that in the black body. Well, because we're going to focus on the black body. I'm talking to my people. I'm talking to the melanated people of the earth. Protein does not benefit the production of melanin. You, as a melanin person, as a melanated God, is dependent on carbonated foods that are high in oxygen and hydrogen. There need to be carbon in those foods, and minerals, trace minerals and bulk minerals that will provide you with vitality and a healthy lifestyle and healthy living. Not proteins. Proteins will kill you. Proteins do not help you get more melanin. It does not complement the production of melanin, which you are a product of. That is your building block. At the base level, it starts with carboxylic acids, which are compounds of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, not nitrogen. So, as I said, we are carbon based, and instead what proteins do is that it inhibits production of melanin. It doesn't add to it, it inhibits it, which means it sabotages the production of what makes you black. But remember, you trust the colonizers, you trust their books, you trust the universities that were designed by white supremacists, the media that is designed by white supremacists. You trust them. So here we ask, what is a protein? Well, here it is. This is what a protein is. What you see here is hydrogen bonded to carbon, oxygen, and another thing here called hydroxide. But it's oxygen and hydrogen nonetheless. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen. This is fuel for the black body. And anything that comes with these three elements within will cure you and sustain you and prolong a long, healthy lifestyle. A long, healthy life. So, what you got here now is your superarching, your R structure, and this is melanin. This is minerals. Alright? So, your melanin covalently bonds to minerals, and when it's covalently bonded to minerals, your cells could then accept it, because minerals cannot enter the cells without it being bonded to something that the cells will accept, which is this. These are your transducers. Your melanin is your transducers. And then your melanin is carrying the minerals that's needed for building your tissues, that's needed for signal transduction, which is communication, that's needed to provide instructions to your DNA so that it could build up genes and chromosomes healthily, if that's a word. You need your minerals for that. All right. So this here makes up about 90% of what is a said protein. They're calling all of this a protein. Let's not forget that. This here is melanin. This here is the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen attached to your minerals. This is melanin. Attached to the melanin is the amines. The amine is nitrogen, NH. Nitrogen. These are nitrogenous compounds. Your amines will be things like arginine. It'll be things like your bad estrogens. There'll be things like galactose. Those would be your amines. And it will be NH based compounds and materials. Alright? So you got your amines. Now the amines only make up 5 to 10% of this whole structure. I should have drew it smaller so you could see as illustrated about how small this structure is compared to the melanin. Now, they call it protein because of the amine, which only makes 5% of the structure. They're telling you that you need protein. They tell you you need amines, your amino acids. This is the basis of European and Asian medical science. It says that you need nitrogen in the form of amines to remain healthy. This is a very, very misplaced trust that you have in their institutions, for amine and nitrogen is to carbon what night is today. It's the total opposite. The total opposite. Nitrogen and amines inhibits melanin, which is why we have an X here. And it's because your body goes through something known as deamination. And when you are in the process of deamination, which you are always in the process of deamination, because what deamination is your body coming and chopping off that nitrogen from the melanins. It's chopping it off. And then what your body does is it gets it out the body through your lymphatic system, through your circulatory system, and through your excretory system. It gets it out the body. It is every single second of the day. Every single second of the day, your body is fighting this. Your liver is the powerhouse of deamination, and your liver directs the melanins of the body to fight this. So why are you putting this amines, nitrogen, back into the body? I'll tell you why. Because the colonizers told you to do it. And you have so much respect in their books. You have so much respect in their philosophies. Even though it's killing us, even though it's killing you. Even though you know, even though you have a grandma or you have a grandparent with Alzheimer's. Even though you have a loved one. Whether it's your uncle, your sister, your niece. With heart disease, with sickle cell, with diabetes, all from following their advice. You still trust it. You still trust it. I'm telling you, to take that trust away from the colonizers. And when I say colonizers, I want you to be clear. I want you to be clear. I want you to understand this. That we live in a world in which the structure of society was made and modeled from white supremacists. The major structures in societies, the major structures in these societies, rather, are mega giant corporations such as Big Pharma and nutritional doctors, so-called nutritional doctors, who you put your trust in when the system that these doctors go to is a white supremacist system. They're not gonna tell you anything good for the black body. They don't even know anything good for the black body. We need to realize that, so that real healing could then begin. Because this same system that you put all your trust in is the system of capitalism and democracy as well. And it's a shame that the system that we put all of our trust in have black people leading in suicide rates all over the world. Why is that? Because we are depressed and we are living in a system that designed for melanated gods. It's because in this system they view the body, they view the world in a way that is opposed to how Africans and melanated people or indigenous people or aboriginal people, dark-skinned people view the world. See, we view ourselves as one with the world, but they view themselves as supreme. And if they're supreme, then that means that everybody else's body works like their bodies. This is where it comes into biochemistry. This is where it comes in when we talk about health. This is what supremacy is. And since everybody's body is the same as their bodies because they're supreme, or should behave like their bodies, then what they think is good for them is going to say is good for you. Or what's bad for them is going to say is bad for you. But a lion is not a cheetah. And a gazelle is not a cow. And a gorilla is not an elephant. They are all different. What is good for a gorilla is not good for the cheetah. What is good for the elephant is not good for the crocodile. They are different. We are different. And there is no shaking that. You look at us, you look at them, we're different. So we need a different philosophy and science of medicine. We need to go back. We need to go back. We need to go back to what we believe and our relationship and our philosophies with the universe. Because in our philosophies and with our outlook of life, we say that one would never get sick if they only obey what is natural and be one with what is natural. And a melanated view of life, we say that the herbs heals and cures all things, and that the earth is plentiful and boundless, and there's enough for all. And we have a history that gives us confidence in our conviction. Because in our history, where we got sick and we had a certain relationship with nature that provided us with everything we needed when we got sick, or if we got sick, we will go to a certain plant and mix it with another plant, and it would heal the state of dis-ease within our body historically. Thus today, we will say that the African melanin perspective towards the healing of every single disease and virus could be administered through the use of herbs, through natural organic compounds. We don't need prescription pills and we don't need vaccinations now. The viewpoints of the Europeans and the Asians are different. And this is because historically, they did not have the same relationship and the same perspective of nature and themselves that we did. We formed our culture based off of how we saw ourselves with relations to the environment, the nature, and the universe. And so did they. So within our culture, we found that the plants and the jungle and the sun and the rain and the water provided every single thing we need to be healthy. Within their culture, they didn't come to the same conclusions historically. Thus today, their institutions, Big Pharma, the FDA, the medical colleges reflects that, and they say there is no cure for disease, despite the historical standpoint of the melanated peoples of the earth. They say there is no cure for disease, and if you go and say there is a cure, we'll arrest you and we'll put you in jail. We'll lock you in a prison cell so that you could be a slave again. This is the people you trust. I'm gonna tell you there is a cure for every single disease. And we, the black race, know it. We are the cure. The black race is the cure for every single disease. The amination cuts off that nitrogen. That nitrogen then excreted from the body. It goes to the circulatory system. It goes to the kidneys. It's first bonded to carbon dioxide and then it goes to the kidneys, because it can't be sent through blood to the kidneys if it's not bonded to carbon dioxide. So it bonds to carbon dioxide and then it is diffused into the blood. It goes into the kidneys and then you excrete it. And that's what urea is. That is what your pee-pee is. That's what your piss is. It's nitrogenous compounds that your liver, because your liver is the headquarters and the powerhouse of the emanation. That's why it is black. Your liver is pitch black because it's filled with melanin. And it is your melanin is the powerhouse of the emanation. And it's your melanin that traps and inhibits bacteria as well as molecules that are nitrogen based and that harms the body. What do I mean when I say this? I mean that when you're trotting through the jungle, and this has been seen scientifically, when you're traveling through the jungle or when you scratch yourself wherever, Your melanin literally goes and traps that bacteria, those macrophages that are at the surface of the wound that's trying to enter the bloodstream. Your melanin literally traps and inhibits it. Literally. Your melanin, you can get stung by a snake, or you can get bit by a snake, you can get stung by a bee. And then the snake and this bee secretes a compound inside you that then brings you harm. It's your melanin that rushes to those compounds, traps it, and excretes it from the body. Your melanin is the immune system of the body. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen is the biological print of black people around the world. Alright? And what's important is not proteins, it is not amines, and it's not vitamins. Vitamins mean vital amines. Vitamins were created by what I believe was a Polish scientist by the name of Casimir's Funk. Casimir's Funk, back in the early 1900s, says, yo, I need to find a source of proteins because proteins are essential for me and my people and human beings. So he went and got different things, and he got rice bran, he got cod liver, and he got cheese. And then he said, okay, here you can find vitamin A, B, C, and D. And I want you to implement this into your diet to make sure you stay healthy. But who is it gonna make healthy and who is it gonna make sick? Because Casimir's Funk was not a black man. He was not a black goddess. He does not know how the black body work. And a protein will not bring any type of good to a black man. Why? Because it is nitrogen based. And what is nitrogen based inhibits melanin production. And we are electric beings. That's why we're carbon based. We are electric. And we're gonna get into that. So if it's nitrogen, then it's not gonna promote conductivity of electrical pulses throughout the body. It will shut that down. Protein is not what a black body needs. It is what the black body fights every single second of the day. But the colonizers told us it's good for us, and we believe it. So we're being marketed protein, left, right, and the third, through the four corners of the earth. Protein, 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 this, protein, that. We touched on how the body deaminates this. The body comes and then it chops off the nitrogen, and then the nitrogen then, this is the nitrogen here, it chops off, it X's that out, and then the nitrogen is then sent through the blood to the urea and the lymphatic system. So this means that the only fuel is the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen of glucose, of the sugar that you need. The only fuel is the carbons, the hydrogens, and the oxygens, because the carbons will make sure that you produce more of the melanin inside of you. The hydrogens will make sure that you produce more of the melanins inside of you. The oxygen will make sure you produce more of the melanins inside of you. It'll make sure that it's combustion. It'll make sure that you are getting energy, because that's what combustion does. It is the only fuel for the mitochondria, which is the energy, this is the engine of the cell. And when it comes without without this, when you get pure carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen and minerals without this nitrogen, you were headed towards a long life. Long, healthy life that is void of virus and disease. Completely empty of it. Because you are giving your body exactly what it needs to build tissue, exactly what it needs to keep everything circulating, to keep that vascular elasticity nice, to keep the arteries clean and void of gunk and minus obstructions, to keep those cells oxygenated so that you dodge acidosis. Because once you have acidosis, you get deterioration. When you get deterioration, you get things like cancer. You get things like leaky gut syndrome. So, this is what you need. Carbon, hydrogens, and oxygens. Alright? So, other than the carbons, the hydrogens, and the oxygens, right? You also need your minerals. But let's backtrack a little bit. Because one thing I also forgot to say is that you also make water, and that's why you need the hydrogens as well, because water in your cells is what allows for trillions of chemical processes to go through, to actually go through and perform. Without those waters, which is that liquid melanin, then you can't even have interactions between cells and interaction within the membrane of the cells, which is why you need to be drinking alkaline water filled with minerals to make sure that those waters are pure and you're getting proper signal transduction, untainted by nitrogenous amine-based chemicals and estrogens and histamines, right? So then we get into the minerals, and the minerals is what makes your body. It's not vitamins that make your body, it's minerals. It's calcium, it's magnesium, it's manganese, it's iron, it's zinc. You need these things. If you plan to recreate yourself on Earth, if you plan to extend your lineage, you won't be able to do that by eating McDonald's. You won't be able to make a copy of yourself, to bring forth a new life on Earth that's going to be nice, healthy, vibrant, and strong by eating McDonald's. Because McDonald's not going to provide your DNA what's needed for it to fix itself and for it to continue to build. It's not in McDonald's. It's not in KFC. It's not in Popeyes. It's in the natural foods of the earth. When I say natural food, I mean foods that you could trace the lineage back to hundreds of thousands of years. Just you know that it's not a European invention. It's the invention of the Most High. So it's in herbs like sarsaparilla. It's in herbs like cheney root, like dandelion. That's gonna make you produce a child that's gonna be strong, vibrant, and healthy in thought, able to articulate his inner feelings and be able to see the world for what it is, thus helping the race decolonize itself. Because that man's gonna love himself. That woman's gonna love herself. And if you love yourself and if you love yourself, then that means you're gonna love your brother, your sister, your neighbor, your community, your neighborhood, your continent, you're gonna decolonize because you love yourself. You gotta eat the right foods. Because right now we're eating the foods of the Europeans, and Europeans hate us. And the foods that the Europeans give us destroys the blackness in us. The melanin is what I mean when I say the blackness in us. And if you're destroying the blackness in you, that means you hate you. Food has a psychological effect. And if you're eating starch, blood, and cyanide, there is no way that we're going to come together as a people to get out of this struggle that we're in now. You need your minerals. So as I said, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that we're electrical beings. We're not nitrogen, ammonium ridden beings. We are electrical. We are carbon rich. Your brain is full of carbon. Your brain is full of copper. Minerals, copper. You need copper. You need minerals. You are electric. Science will come out and tell you that we're electric. If we're electric, then why are we eating starch? Why are we eating rice? Why are we eating cheese? Why are we drinking cow milk? Why are we eating foods that were slaughtered 3 weeks ago before it makes it to the supermarket? Why are you following behind the footsteps of people who are lacking in melanin? Because if we need to eat foods that are rich in melanin, then that means our science needs to be focused on that. It means people that makes that science needs to have that within them. Right now we're looking to Europeans and Asians for guidance, but they have no melanin. They don't need that. You need that. They're lacking melanin, which is why they are white and pale. And that is why they burn in the sun, because they are lacking melanin. They are not electric like how you are electric. Electricity is the most important thing to you. Carbon is electric, oxygen is electric, hydrogen is electric. Thus your whole human's organism and the biochemical system within that organism is electric based. These nitrogen people who are marketing nitrogen compounds to you is harming you, because what nitrogen does to electricity is it makes it non-conductive. It harms electricity. Nitrogen harms electricity. Nitrogen harms electricity. You are electric. You are carbon. There's no getting away from that. Nitrogen harms electricity. Nitrogen corrodes minerals. Amines corrodes minerals. That's why it gets chopped off. Amines corrode minerals. That's why it gets chopped off. Ammonium inhibits melanin production. That's why it gets chopped off. You trust them and you put this back into your body after your body spent so much effort getting it out. You eat that macaroni and cheese. You call it soul food. Those baked potatoes, that turkey, that baked chicken, that fried chicken, you call it soul food. How is your death going to contribute to the blessings of the soul? How is the deteriorating essence of your death? Because these things deteriorate in you, and it ferments in you, and it forms biofilm and exopolysaccharides. This is scientific fact. If it is doing this to you, your temple, which you should care the most about, then how is it that it brings blessings to the soul when your mind and your body and your spirit should be one? So what is wrong for the body is wrong for the soul. If you feed your body the wrong things, it impacts your mind, because what you feed your body has impact on your biochemistry, on your brain chemistry. Your brain chemistry is nothing but a bunch of chemical signals going on up there. So what you eat impacts that. If what that get impacted, then your thoughts get impacted. If your thoughts get impacted, then you could act on those unhealthy thoughts and run into mental sickness. If you run into mental sickness, then now your spirit feels heavy and you are depressed. But you call it soul food. That is dirt. It's nonsense. There's nothing spiritual about that. You're killing yourself. We are electric beings. Now, in every single cell is a mitochondria. And your mitochondria has a spin cycle. This spin cycle creates an electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field now around that one cell is around every single cell, because you have trillions of cells in your body. Every single cell has a mitochondria. I said that. So if every single cell has a mitochondria, then that means that every single cell has an electromagnetic field. That electromagnetic field interacts with each other, and that is signal transduction. Nitrogen inhibits signal transduction. It gets your cells, it gets your mitochondria spin cycle to spin slower. It spins slower, and then you get a less electromagnetic output. You get less electromagnetic output, then you are liable to get sick, because you're electrical. Do you understand? I'm trying to explain this in a way you understand this. You are electrical. Your body magnetic force, electromagnetic force field is the result of the Earth electromagnetic force field. As above, so below. So the Earth has an electromagnetic force field. You exist on the Earth and are a product of the Earth. So that means you have the electromagnetic force field. But not only did your complete organism have an EMF force field, electromagnetic force field, EMF, every single cell in your body does. Not only does every single cell in your body does, every single atom in your body does. As above, so below. Now, the EMF of your body will not exist without the EMF of the Earth, because the Earth spins just like your mitochondria spin. The Earth spins. What makes the Earth spin? The sun. The sun makes the Earth spin. The sun is what provides electricity to the Earth and to you. The sun is what touches your skin, and those photons, those hydrogen ions, are then absorbed by the melanin in your skin, in your body. And you see a tan, you see you getting darker, you see your hue factor getting more visible because of the combustion that's going on within your cells and your mitochondria. The combustion, which is the oxygens, combustion with the carbons and the hydrogens. Thus you get blacker, thus you get a tan, thus you get darker. Thus you get more energy, thus you get more vitamin D production, more hormone D production. Because in a black body, it is not a vitamin, it is a hormone. It is different than in a white body. Black people, you are not hormone D deficient. They tell you you are because they cannot find the same type of hormone D in you, that it could in them. They look at them and then they look inside you to see if they find the same thing. They do not. They see that there is something different. But then they say you're vitamin D deficient because you don't have the same form of vitamin D that they do. You have hormone D. Your vitamin D or your hormone D comes without amines. It is a carboxyl acid. It's carbon rich. And then it goes to your bones. It fuels bone genesis. The sunlight does that. Because we're a biological version of the plants. The plants use the sun for photosynthesis and to create sugars for energy. We use the sun for photosynthesis as well, but we don't have chlorophyll, we have melanin. And then that sun, we get energy from it because the sun helps us produce more melanin. And then it combusts the ones that's already in us. It combusts it. It creates hormones that we need for signal transduction. The sun does that. You are electrical. The sun gives you that electromagnetic field for signal transduction on the cellular level. The sun is what gives the earth its electromagnetic field. The sun is what allows it to spin. It allows the plant life in the oceans to exist. It's what allows the life on planets to exist, on planets, not just stars, to exist. So, that means that the sun is food to you and your cells. The sun is food. And it is fuel for the earth. It is fuel for you. But let me show you how deep white supremacy gets and why we are sick and why we are at risk of extinction from more powerful races of people. Because we're dealing with a people that loves to conquer, that do not believe in sharing. And total world domination is the goal. They already dominated our countries. They already dominated our continents. Now they're trying to do total global domination. And the way they do this is by implementing supremacist ideas and you accepting it. This supremacist idea we're going to focus on now is global warming, in which case the sun is seen as an enemy. I just described to you how good the sun is to us and how we wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the sun, because we are melanin beings. We depend on the sun. We depend on the sun. We depend on the sun. But yet these nitrogen Europeans are telling us that the sun is getting too hot. Therefore, God doesn't know what he's doing. God made a mistake because God allowed the sun to get too hot. So we Europeans, who are God anyway, because Jesus had blonde hair and blue eyes. And since we're God, and since we're supreme, since we conquered the earth, we conquered the continents, we conquered the countries, we also believe that the sun is getting too hot. God doesn't know what he's doing. God could be a damn buffoon for all we know. We need to control the relationship between the earth and the sun. And we need to do that because of a couple reasons. One, the polar bears are dying. And we care about the polar bears. And I'm going to do a prayer for the polar bears. We're going to save the polar bears. I'm going to do a prayer for the polar bears as I'm eating my steak. As I'm eating the creatures of the oceans. As I'm eating and consuming the beasts of the earth. Because we care about the polar bears. The polar bears are important. And as I set up my mega corporations that promotes animal slaughter in the trillions, McDonald's, Wendy's, Red Lobster, Five Guys, as I set up these industries to become even more vast, and we kill trillions more the next day, we care about the polar bears. And you are giving them power over the planet and its relationship with the sun, because you believe that they care about polar bears. You believe that you care about polar bears. Because as soon as I ask you about global warming, you say, what about the polar bears? You believe that carbon is such a bad thing. Well, you are carbon. Now, the sun is getting hotter. When the sun gets hotter, that means the oceans are getting hotter. Well, the oceans are a carbon dioxide. It's a carbon sink. It's a carbon sink. The ocean holds the most amount of carbon on the planet. Now, what happens to carbons trapped in the ocean when the sun heats the ocean up? What happens is that carbon is released into the earth, into the atmosphere, into the air. That carbon is released. And then you also get simultaneously a mega boom in plant life. Thus you get more jungles. Thus you get more rainforests. Thus you get higher and better qualities of oxygen. And you've been fooled and duped to believe that this is a bad thing? The melting of the snow and a tropical earth is a bad thing? You believe that God doesn't know what God's doing. And instead of believing in God and nature and the processes of God, God's work is nature. This nature is extension of God. That's African belief. That is melanin. As opposed to nitrogen. We are God's because God extended Himself into His works, and His works is all that exists and more. Thus, we are God. And since we are God, we have to respect the works of God. And we have to respect ourselves, now we have to respect you. But instead, you believe what the colonizers say. You think that God is outside of yourself. So instead of trusting in the system of God, which they call a terrible tragedy in the form of global warming, you're going to give power of the earth. And you're going to give control of the earth over to them. So that they could spray things up in the air that makes synthetic clouds. They'll spray sulfur in the air that makes synthetic clouds and then block out the sunlight. just stopping the rays of the sun from fertilizing the soils of the earth, from fertilizing the melanin in our skins, the melanin, the beast of the animals of around the world. We're giving them permission to do that. Are we mad? Are we out of our minds? This is a dangerous game we're playing. The sun is food, right? So, let's continue to look at the sun. Let's continue to look at the earth. As the earth gets warmer, you get more carbon. Now, we need to talk about pollution. There's a difference between pollution and carbon global warming. There's a difference between pollution and carbon emissions. There's a difference between pollution and carbon emissions. Pollution is when these same European corporations that now have nuclear facilities that produces power for their societies that they created, their cities they created, and then the waste product that comes from these nuclear centers around the world are then dumped into the rivers, dumped into nature, dumped into the oceans. That is pollution. Pollution is not carbon emissions. Pollution is not carbon emissions. Pollution is when these colonizers dump their garbage in their landfills into pure nature, into the oceans, airdrop it in Africa. That is pollution. Pollution is not carbon emissions. Pollution is not carbon emissions. You are carbon. Don't make them get you to hate yourself. They say there's too much carbon in the earth. There's too much carbon in the atmosphere. Global warming, too much carbon. You are carbon. Don't agree and say, yeah, there's too much carbon. You are carbon. Pollution is not carbon. With more carbon emissions come more forest. With more forest comes more plant life. With more plant life comes more insects. With more insects come more mammals. With more mammals come more populations of life. What comes with global warming is increased oxygen. How long can you go without oxygen? You could go a couple of weeks without food, without eating. You could go a couple of days without water. You could only go a couple of minutes without oxygen. It is the most important thing to the body. The body needs oxygen, and it needs it badly. Global warming will get us higher concentrations and purer concentrations of oxygen. Do not allow them to trick you anymore. Because what the earth is doing is it's getting rid of nitrogen. It's expelling the nitrogen into the cosmos. Because as more carbons come out the ocean, and as more oxygens are being produced by the new plant life and the kelps of the ocean, then more oxygens could bind to the nitrogens in the atmosphere. Just like when melanin sees something that can harm the body in the body, it binds to the poisons and then excretes it. Melanin in the body binds to the poison and excretes it. Melanin in the body, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, binds to the poisons, the nitrogenous poisons, and excretes it. The earth is getting warmer. The carbons and the oxygens binds to the nitrogen in the atmosphere and excretes it. The carbon and the oxygen binds to the nitrogen in the atmosphere and excretes it. As above, so below. You are the product of the earth. The earth has an electromagnetic field. Your mitochondria has an electromagnetic field. Stop going against nature. You are nature. You are God. They are trying to kill God. They have a problem with God. Proteins are your worst enemy. Stay away from proteins. You are about minerals. You need your minerals. You need your carbon. You need your oxygens. You need alkalinity. You stay away from the blood, the flesh, the starch, and run towards the fruits, the vegetables, the herbs, the fonio. Yes, man. You need to understand what the world is that we exist in. And when you understand it, when you understand the problem, then you can find a permanent solution. The permanent solution is knowledge in self and love for self. This is Bush Dr. Mani. I'm gonna do more videos. This is the first of many. Peace and Black Power. I love you all. 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 I want to do nothing more than to help my race decolonize, help my race get wise, and bring us to a Black Wakanda-like future. Peace and Black Power. Bush Dr. Mani out. Catch me on Instagram as well. And then Bush Dr. Mani. Deuces.